All right. So I've spent an unusual amount of time with rope over the course of my life. Um, I grew up on a lobster boat, so we were making ground lines with 3-strand rope, which I do not have any close to hand. But 3-strand, so this is braided. Um, Climbers are going to be familiar with braided style rope. It's used for mooring lines, used for a lot of really useful things, but the braiding process is more expensive than the 3-strand twisted rope. However, with twisted rope, if you do not properly finish the end with either an overhand knot, which isn't really proper, but it will stop it from unlaying and fraying, it's going to make a mess if you don't have a rope burner. So I prefer to use a rope burner whenever I can. I've spent a lot of time not just on my dad's fishing boat growing up, but also worked on some offshore boats that were also lobstering, and some factory fishing boats on the west coast as well. I've made some climbing ropes here and there. And so when I was growing up, we used to actually use just a regular torch. This is just a bent version of this one, but just a regular torch, especially with 3-strand. You twist it against itself, so with the lay, you're trying to twist it harder, not unravel it when you're burning it. So with just the flame, you just melt the plastic away, but you have to you light it on fire effectively. You light the rope on fire when you're just using a bare torch. There's also electronic guns with the blade on the end. However, a couple drawbacks about those. The blade fails after a while. It's conducting electricity to heat it up, and after enough cycles, it eventually breaks, and then you need a new tip on your, it's like a pistol type gun. The industrial style is a box that sits on a tabletop. It uses the same adapter though. It's a blade that's on 2 pieces of wire, and it heats it up with electricity. You don't always have electric. If you are a climber and you're at the bottom of a cliff and you want to properly finish your ends, if you're on a fishing boat that doesn't have a generator and you don't have 110 on your boat, then you're limited to a knife and a torch. You have to use them separately. This is a knife torch. Revolutionary, I know. So I built this years ago now, at least 5 years ago now, around the same time I was doing the battery project on my truck, and I've used this a lot. It works really, really great for cutting rope, but also plastic. We're going to go through and just cut some things, and this is something that I've found really useful. The reason that I'm making a video about it is because I don't believe that there's really a need for this. I don't think a lot of people do as much work with rope or line as I do. I really enjoy just doing it properly. I mean, even I have a lot of this shot line left over from when I worked at Military Sea Lift Command. This is the line that you'd put a rubber projectile on, and the M14 would shoot that rubber projectile ship to ship, and this would be the leader, so you would pull your tag lines across with this small string. And then the rope would get bigger and bigger and bigger until you hauled the cables across. But every time they'd shoot one of these spools, they threw it away. So, I mean, I have hundreds of feet of this stuff, and whenever I cut it, it just annoys me when this is not even frayed. It starts to come apart, the white shows, and that's so easily fixable if you just like that. And now you got a sealed end that isn't going to come undone. I mean, it's that quick. I would imagine that anyone who's going to be interested in this is going to have a torch and have experienced Um, I would imagine anyone who's be interested in this would have already used a torch to cut a piece of line, but I guess I should have prepped for this. So let me get this on here, and we'll do a comparison burn, just so you can see the difference. So, same piece of line. You saw how quick it was over there. This is just going to melt the whole section away. You get dripping plastic. It is, done correctly technically, but it's just, I've got a burn on my hand right there from burnt plastic. So this way does work, and like I said, this is the way that this is my preferred method if I had not built this. But once you have one of those, there is literally no reason that you would ever go back to anything else. So it works great on small stuff. I got a bunch of stuff laid out here. We're going to go from smallest string. This has got frayed ends. I just found some stuff around the house that just had not been properly finished, and I was like, let's do a video and just finish it. So there's that. I mean, just absolutely perfect. This is already properly burnt, but just for the sake of illustration, I'm going to just finish that. So, I mean, super quick, super clean. Everything is just effortless. And I have had no problems with this. So once it is put together, so the thing is, I actually believe this is not the design that I would put out if there was an interest in something like this. If people see this and wish that it was a product, this, as you can see, has a bunch of different parts to it. Since I built this, I thought a lot more about it, and I believe that I have an updated design that I could produce for somewhere in the neighborhood of just a torch. So obviously this would, I mean, just to ballpark it, I think that I spent about the same amount for the torch and the valve as I did for this section. So this would be substantially more expensive. If people really wanted this form factor for some reason, I guess I could offer this one specifically, but it's going to be more expensive. The updated idea for a design would be very, very, very easy. It's just a matter of figuring out if there's a need for it, if people are interested. If people do want something like this, I would absolutely love to provide that. So, that's what your strap's going to look like if you don't burn it, if you just cut it. This is like lumber strapping from a lumber yard. I just grabbed it because I love, having pieces of stuff like this around. In case I want to make like a short tie down on a roof rack or something like that, I can just create something that I can hook a ratchet strap into really quickly. Obviously rope works fine too, but I just prefer. And then on this, you don't even have to cut this, but you can just finish the end by just pressing it against the blade there. So, I mean, it's, again, I think it's very useful, but I just don't know how much other people are really doing this type of work regularly, and whether people care, because some people just don't care. They're just going to cut it with a knife and be done with it. This might seem ridiculous for some people. Here's another pretty good example of, that just annoys me to have that like that. So, so easy to just fix that, create a nice sealed end so that will not unravel. and you don't need to put an end knot in it. All right, I've never tried this, but I am curious. This is Cat 6, and I'm just wondering if the metal is actually hot enough to not just burn the casing, but actually melt the copper. Nope. Well, actually, it felt like it was going to go, actually. But, well, whatever. There's real thin copper in here, 8 strands of it. So I just didn't know if it would actually burn through it. The other thing you can use it for is, literally cutting plastic. If you don't want to use a saw, it cuts through stuff real nice, just like butter. This was just a piece of junk I found in the backyard. Here's some sort of bottle. If you wanted to cut this in half, you can just burn right around. Well, I didn't get a straight cut, but it does slice right through it, obviously, like butter, because it's a torch. And then the last thing we'll do, just some standard black, PVC pipe. If you've got some of this around, you can use a saw, but this makes pretty short work of it. Oh man, I'm not getting, so I've never tried cutting hard plastic. I was just curious, and I figured if I was gonna do this video, this has got a little thicker wall on it, so I guess I gotta go around it more than once. There it goes. So, I mean, I guess probably just use a saw, but I mean, it just shows that, you got a lot of different options for what you want to cut with it. So anyway, just trying to gauge if there's interest in something like this. If I established that there was interest, I would put out a reasonably priced product that I think would be useful for people who like to go camping, or climbers, fishermen. I don't know what else. Those are the uses that I'm aware of. So anyway, hope you guys found this interesting. Let me know in the comments if this is anything that you would find useful for your everyday work.